Every single time your foot hits the pavement on a run, you are slamming, up to 3 times your body weight straight into a tissue that basically has virtually zero direct blood supply to heal itself.
Yeah, and we do this, what, thousands of times per session,
Hmm.
just blindly trusting that our knees, our hips, the lumbar spine, that they'll just magically sort it all out internally while we only focus on the visible muscles.
Right, totally. Which actually brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a really comprehensive protocol for pre- and post-workout joint care.
Specifically, we're breaking down the biological mechanisms behind a daily routine that includes a supplement called BIODYNAMIX.
Yeah. And our goal for you today is to really decode the actual physiology of how to keep your body moving smoothly for decades. Whether you're prepping for a marathon, playing weekend pickleball, or, just navigating a physically demanding job, this stuff directly applies to your longevity.
It really does. It's universally applicable.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because there is just this glaring blind spot in fitness culture, right? We completely obsess over muscle hypertrophy. We meticulously track like our VO2 max.
Oh, yeah, every metric.
Exactly. But we completely ignore the silent, avascular shock absorbers that are actually making all of that force transfer possible.
It is a massive blind spot. And I think, well, it really stems from our preference for the visible. You can see a muscle grow in the mirror. You can measure a distinct increase in your stamina on the track.
Right. It's tangible.
Exactly. But you cannot see the microtrauma accumulating in your chondrocytes. Those are the cells that maintain your cartilage until, unfortunately, it crosses the threshold into actual pain.
Which is usually too late.
Right. And that's why the material we're diving into today is so vital. It forces a complete paradigm shift. We have to move from this reactive damage control mindset to proactive daily joint maintenance.
And to truly protect those joints, we have to first understand the actual physics of what we are doing to them. Take running, like we mentioned at the top.
Yeah.
That force transfer isn't just carrying a heavy weight. It is this repetitive, ballistic shock wave traveling all the way up the kinetic chain.
And cycling is another really prime example of this. It removes the ballistic impact, sure, but it introduces thousands of highly repetitive locked-in knee flexions in just a single hour.
Right, the repetition is insane. And then you have weightlifting. That just introduces immense compressive and shearing forces across the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, and especially the spine.
Absolutely crushing forces.
It kind of makes me think of upgrading a car. People spend all their time and money building this massive V8 engine, which is the muscles, right?
Yeah.
But they leave the factory suspension completely untouched.
That is a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and you try dropping a high-performance engine onto worn-out shocks, and the chassis is it's just going to rattle itself to pieces the second you hit top speed.
Right. Though I will say the car analogy works up to a point.
Yeah.
But it's not just a mechanical shock absorber.
True, yeah.
Because a car's suspension doesn't regenerate. Your joints actually do.
Yeah.
They're living ecosystems. They're made of cartilage, synovial fluid, ligaments, fascial networks, connective tissue.
Wow, okay.
And this brings us to the fundamental biological bottleneck here, the blood flow problem.
Right.
So muscles are highly vascular. They are pumped full of blood vessels. But cartilage is almost entirely avascular.
Okay, so wait. If there are basically no blood vessels running through the cartilage, how on earth does it get the nutrients to repair that microtrauma we were talking about?
Yeah, it's wild. It relies entirely on a mechanism called fluid imbibition.
Imbibition, like drinking.
Exactly. Inside your joint capsule is this synovial fluid. So think of your cartilage like a dense, wet sponge.
Okay.
When you bear weight, so when you step down on a run or you unrack a heavy barbell, that physical compression physically squeezes the sponge.
Oh, wow. And that forces the bad stuff out?
Yes. It forces out all the metabolic waste. And then when you release the weight, the sponge expands and sucks in fresh synovial fluid, which brings, oxygen and nutrients with it.
That is fascinating. So movement is literally the pump. The physical act of compression and release is actually what feeds the joint.
Spot on. But because it relies on this slow mechanical sponging action instead of a direct, high-pressure arterial supply, repairing microscopic damage takes significantly longer than repairing a torn muscle fiber.
I see. So it's just inherently delayed.
Precisely. When you push a muscle to failure, massive blood flow just rushes in, it clears out the lactic acid, delivers amino acids, and rebuilding happens pretty quickly. Joints do not have an express delivery system at all.
The materials arrive, but the pace is just entirely different,
Right.
which means repetitive stress can easily outpace the joint's ability to sponge in enough nutrients. I want you, the listener, to do a quick mental audit of your body right now.
It's good exercise.
Yeah, like, are you noticing morning stiffness that takes maybe an hour to shake off? Sore knees a full day after a long run?
Yeah.
Or tight hips after heavy squats?
Achy shoulders when you just try to reach overhead.
Yes, exactly. And these aren't necessarily torn ligaments or full-blown injuries. They are the initial warning signs that your tissue breakdown is currently outpacing your nutrient delivery.
They are the check engine light. And because the delivery system is so slow, we really cannot afford to wait until we're sitting on the couch after the workout to start the recovery process. We have to front load it.
Okay, wait, hold on. How can you recover from a workout you haven't even done yet? That sounds like time travel. Like, are we preemptively healing future damage here?
I know it sounds totally counterintuitive, but good joint care is fundamentally about tissue preparation. You aren't healing future damage, right?
Yeah.
You are optimizing the internal environment to minimize the structural damage that is about to occur.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, by engaging in targeted dynamic warm-ups, you're physically raising your core temperature, which actually decreases the viscosity of that synovial fluid we just talked about.
So it literally changes the fluid.
It does. It makes the fluid thinner, more slippery.
Okay, so we are essentially making sure the joint is perfectly lubricated so it doesn't grind when the heavy, repetitive stress actually starts. We are smoothing the road before we drive the heavy truck over it.
Well, it's not quite smoothing the road. It's more like warming up the rubber on the truck's tires so they don't crack when they hit a sudden pothole.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
You're hydrating the fascial networks. You're prepping the ligaments to handle sudden tension without micro-tearing. And that pre-workout phase really dictates the severity of the stress the joint will eventually have to recover from.
So if that pre-workout routine minimizes the damage, the post-workout window is where the body actually has to clear out whatever damage slipped through. And honestly, athletes get this part completely wrong. The baseline post-workout routine usually involves, what, drinking a protein shake, maybe foam rolling for 5 minutes, and taking a rest day.
Right. Pretty standard stuff.
But while foam rolling is great for the muscle belly, it doesn't penetrate the joint capsule at all.
No, it doesn't. Especially after high-demand activities, like if you're doing high-volume strength training, HIIT protocols, competitive tennis, CrossFit, or even working a construction job.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of stress requires specific nutritional and physiological support to trigger the actual repair mechanisms inside that joint space.
And this actually brings us to the two biological mechanisms doing the heavy lifting for that repair, which are inflammation and circulation.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is how we need to completely reframe our view of inflammation.
Totally.
In fitness circles, inflammation is treated like an absolute villain. We ice it, we take anti-inflammatories, we try to just eradicate it immediately. But a healthy inflammatory response is the essential first step of the recovery process.
Because it's the signaling mechanism, right? It's the body recognizing tissue damage and actually calling for help.
Exactly.
I always think of acute inflammation like a team of first responders. You actively want the fire trucks rushing in to put out the fire and secure the building. But if they park their trucks across the entire highway and just refuse to leave for 3 weeks,
Right.
traffic is completely blocked. Right. Nobody else can get through to rebuild the house.
That is the crucial distinction between acute and chronic inflammation. You want the first responders to arrive, secure the area efficiently, and pack up.
Yeah.
But when the physical demands you place on your body constantly outpace your recovery, that acute response gets stuck in overdrive. It becomes chronic. And chronic inflammation actively blocks the second piece of the puzzle, which is circulation.
Wow, okay. So we are back to the blood flow problem.
Always back to blood flow.
Right. Since the cartilage itself lacks blood vessels, the surrounding ecosystem, the synovial membrane, the ligaments, tendons, they rely heavily on healthy capillary circulation.
They need that microcirculation to transport oxygen in and, critically, to flush the metabolic waste out.
Let's actually define that metabolic waste, because it's not just some abstract concept. We are talking about cellular debris from the microtrauma, lingering inflammatory cytokines and lactic acid buildup.
It's an acidic soup.
Exactly, an acidic soup. And if the circulation is sluggish, This toxic soup just sits in the joint capsule, causing more stiffness and irritation.
Better circulation directly equals faster, more efficient waste removal. If the local capillary network is functioning properly, the waste is cleared, the nutrients arrive to supply the chondrocytes, and the inflammatory first responders can finally clear the highway.
Okay, so if balanced inflammation and robust microcirculation are the real physiological keys to repairing our joints, how do we actually manipulate them? Like, we can't just meditate our way to wider capillaries.
No, you definitely can.
Right. So this leads us to the specific intervention the protocol highlights, which is the BIODYNAMIX Joint Genesis formulation.
Yeah. As training consistency goes up, the realization usually hits that the internal environment needs dedicated support, which is why a doctor-formulated, research-backed intervention like this becomes necessary.
But I have to push back here for a second because, the sports supplement market is a notorious wild west of snake oil.
Oh, absolutely.
Are we just talking about a glorified, overpriced painkiller here? Like, is this just masking the ache by numbing the pain receptors so someone can just ignore their check engine light and go run another 10 miles on a degenerating knee?
That is a critical question to ask. But the underlying physiology of this formulation points to the exact opposite.
Okay.
Masking discomfort is what an over-the-counter NSAID does. It temporarily shuts off the pain signal. But the philosophy of Joint Genesis is to alter the actual microenvironment inside the joint capsule. It is designed to support long-term synovial hydration and structural mobility.
All right, let's dig into the actual biology of how the ingredients pull that off.
Right.
Because the first major component is pine bark extract. What is the specific mechanism of action there?
So pine bark extract is packed with these compounds called proanthocyanidins.
Proanthocyanidins. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Right. But beyond just being powerful antioxidants, these compounds actually stimulate the endothelial cells, which are the cells lining your blood vessels, to produce nitric oxide. And nitric oxide acts as a vasodilator.
Oh, so it literally commands the blood vessels to relax and widen.
Yes, it forces the tiny capillary network surrounding the joint to just open up. By increasing that vasodilation, the pine bark essentially widens the supply lines, pushing oxygen-rich blood deeper into those hard-to-reach fascial networks and the synovial membrane right after a demanding workout.
That makes total sense. So if the pine bark is handling the circulation side by dilating the supply lines, how does the formula tackle the inflammation side?
That would be Boswellia.
Enter Boswellia. Now, this botanical has a massive history in traditional practices, but what is it actually doing on a cellular level to the joints?
Right, so Boswellia contains a specific active compound. It's known as AKBA. What makes AKBA so interesting is that it directly targets and inhibits an enzyme called 5-LOX.
5-LOX.
Yeah, and the 5-LOX enzyme is one of the primary drivers of pro-inflammatory chemicals in the body.
Oh, I see. So it's the dispatcher sending out too many fire trucks?
It is the dispatcher.
Yeah.
But notice the distinction here. Boswellia does not shut down the entire immune response.
Right.
It acts as a regulator for that specific 5-LOX pathway. It basically keeps the inflammatory response balanced and efficient. It allows the necessary acute inflammation to happen, but prevents it from spiraling into the chronic, lingering inflammation that causes all that persistent stiffness.
So it keeps the first responders organized so they don't block the highway.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense when you combine the two. I mean, pine bark opens up the roads and Boswellia manages the traffic.
It's a great synergy.
But we have to throw a massive caveat in here because this is just a non-negotiable reality of human biology. No formulation, I don't care how much nitric oxide it produces or 5-LOX it inhibits, is going to give you titanium knees if you are sleeping 4 hours a night, eating a highly processed diet, and completely refusing to rest.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Supplements are exactly that, supplementary. They are designed to act as force multipliers for an existing foundation of healthy habits. You just cannot outwork chronic sleep deprivation or, terrible lifting mechanics.
Right. The daily habits are the true needle movers. We're talking about thorough dynamic tissue preparation before lifting. We are talking about progressive overload, building strength gradually instead of ego lifting and subjecting your connective tissue to shearing forces it just hasn't adapted to.
Definitely. And dedicated mobility training, too, not just static stretching.
Yeah. Wearing footwear that actually supports your foot's natural mechanics. Prioritizing deep sleep, hitting your protein targets to provide the actual amino acid building blocks, and scheduling non-negotiable recovery days.
All of that. Yeah, comprehensive, multifaceted approach is why this methodology is universally applicable. It isn't just for the elite powerlifter or the marathon runner.
Right.
It is just as vital for the golfer dealing with rotational shear forces, or the hiker managing downhill compressive loads, even the person returning to the gym after a 5-year hiatus, or a nurse spending 12 hours a day on their feet.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the complete biological picture, the immense ballistic and compressive forces, the inherent lack of vascularity and cartilage, the necessity of synovial fluid compression, and that dual requirement of balanced inflammation and dilated circulation, the ultimate realization is just a total perspective shift on what exercise actually is.
It really is.
The workout itself is just the stimulus, it's the damage, the actual progress, the structural adaptation of the joint happens entirely during the recovery window.
Giving the vascular tissues of your joints the exact same meticulous, targeted nutritional support that you give your highly vascular muscles is the secret to a resilient body. And I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a moment here.
Go for it.
Whether you are an active adult over 40 trying to maintain your athletic edge, or someone stepping back into a fitness routine and feeling those unfamiliar aches, or someone whose livelihood depends on physical labor, remember this. The way you prioritize your joint hydration and manage your inflammatory pathways today dictates the exact quality of your movement tomorrow.
Yeah, it's about maintaining the chassis so it can actually handle the engine you're building.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to just mull over on your own.
Ooh, okay.
So we know that exercise places a necessary, healthy stress on the body, right? Which drives tissue adaptation. And we also know that joints rely on mechanical compression to sponge in nutrients. So if highly repetitive, perfectly predictable, stress like running with the exact same stride mechanics thousands of times, or locking into the exact same squat path every week, if that is the ultimate cause of localized wear and tear,
Yeah.
could occasionally introducing completely weird, entirely novel movement patterns be a secret cheat code? Like, could moving your body in strange, multi-directional, unpredictable ways force mechanical compression in completely neglected, undervascularized corners of the joint capsule?
Wow.
Basically building a truly bulletproof, fully nourished architecture.
That is a brilliant physiological question. I mean, if repetition wears a specific groove into the track, introducing chaotic, varied movement might just force the body to reinforce the entire surrounding landscape.
Because at the end of the day, you can build the biggest, strongest engine in the world, but if you want to keep driving fast for the next 3 decades, you better start paying attention to the suspension. Until next time, keep exploring, keep moving, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.